Oh, wow. Well, thank you for tuning in, guys. And if you're watching this back or listening, that's fantastic. Please do hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. That would support the show fantastically. We're going to be buying some books on the show tonight, so keep a listen out for those keywords, and you can put them in the chat to enter you into the draw. At least 5 will be bought tonight. And the WCCS Author of the Month raffle is on the go. There's only 10 tickets sold out of many possible tickets, and that will allow someone to win a fantastic prize next month and me buying their book, reviewing it on many platforms, and inviting them onto the show for an interview and making them a featured author on the website. Plus, second prize is probably better than first prize, is a whole 12-month subscription to the incredible Pro Writing Aid. So please do check that out. In the description right now, you can click on the link there. So do that. I have a bunch of fabulous authors from the writing community in the panel below me, ready to come onto the show and chat all things indie and about writing, and particularly about marketing, which is a stumbling block for many of us indie authors. So I'm sure there will be a couple of tips within that community that will help you out. So if you have questions throughout this show, there is no time for this. Post them at any stage that you do wish to see fit, and I will get these guests on now. And I hope that you enjoy this, and feedback is always welcome. So first, let me introduce to you. You would have seen this person on the show many times before. Anna Mocikat, hello to you.
Hey, Chris.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting me.
You are most welcome. And I think, in fact, after the horror intro there, that was clearly the same one from the Halloween show, we had a fantastic discussion off air after the show, which is kind of what prompted this. And you have a lot of new books at the moment. So marketing is something you're very fresh on at the moment, and you've got some different insights than a lot of other authors. So it's going to be nice to mix things up as well.
I'm really happy to share some insights. Yeah, it might be not very positive ones, but I think there's a lot of things that indie authors, especially when they're starting out, should know, and no one tells them. So
yeah. Well, that's what I think. That's what I think is a very valuable thing on this show, is the transparency that's going to be happening, is the honesty, and the realism that it's not an easy fight, and it's a long battle. And that advice will only strengthen a new indie author's kind of knowledge, and give them realistic expectations, which is very important. So thank you for joining me, Anna. Next up is Halo Scott. Hello.
Hey, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. Hey,
you are very welcome. How is the world of Halo, Scott?
Good. Chaotic, you know.
As it always is, I believe. Yes, fantastic. Okay, I could have put that guest on, but he's currently not looking at the screen, so that would have been fun. Ross Young, hello to you, sir.
Hey, hello everyone. How are we doing?
There he is.
Yeah, all good, all good. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, no one we just decided not to speak to you. That's all.
Yeah, just leave me here silent. That's fine. I'm used to that. Great.
Fantastic. And we have 2 more that are about to pop on screen. And Mario, hello to you, sir.
Greetings, everybody. Good to see you all.
Mario.
Back.
Looking fantastic with your tie on as well.
I just got out of work. So.
Wow. So like really like a really serious guy. Oh my God. Mario, that's
very,
huge.
very
that's
different
so
from my
huge.
Twitter presence.
We're getting serious, Mario.
Huge.
Wow.
Huge.
Yeah.
I can be serious.
And finally, welcome Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hi, everybody. I made it.
You made it.
It was a near thing.
Linda, hello to you all in the chat. It's fantastic to see your comments coming in. She says, so dapper. I'm assuming she means Mario and his tie.
Oh, no, it's absolutely Ross, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And, this is actually me looking smart.
I can tell.
I can see Ross with a bow, actually. Not much with a tie, but a bow would be something for Ross. Don't you think? Like,
I don't know
the intellectual.
A Ross bow tie.
Yeah.
Anya's made a fantastic point. What a talented group.
Oh, thank you.
Anya's very talented.
Nice.
We're in good company.
So guys, all of you, thank you so much for joining me on tonight's show. And the idea of tonight's show, of course, a lot of November shows were lined up kind of alongside NaNoWriMo for those authors that are kind of finding their feet in that direction, to give them some other knowledge to lean on and kind of be real with indie author life. And I know this group in particular, and a lot of the group on Twitter that communicate with each other, have some amazing advice that flies around on Twitter as well. And we've spoken about it at length off the show. So we wanted to share that with you guys and perhaps give a couple of you just that one or two pieces of information or tips that would really help your career as an author as well. So all of you, thank you for joining me and doing that and taking your time to come and do that with everyone and the community as well. So what we're going to look at is, first of all, indie life. I mean, let's start with you, Mario, top left of my screen. How have you dealt with kind of an indie author life? And, what's kind of the main thing that you've noticed as, I guess, a hardship for you as an indie author?
Well, it never ends. I think everybody can relate to the fact that it just doesn't end. You have to keep at it constantly. And it's always changing too, like how we market. There's a new thing that we should be doing. TikTok was the new thing, and now there's something else that I just learned of, but I'm like, I can't do anything more. But, I think for me, I just keep at it. I've got to take time to actually do the creative stuff, in addition to the constant marketing. And as we all know here, Twitter is not enough.
No.
It's relentless. Yeah. Has anyone got any sort of addition to that? I mean, what's highlighted there is the creativeness needed to continue marketing your book as a self-published indie, mentioned in Twitter and all the social media platforms. It is almost like a full-time job. Yeah. Has anyone kind of figured out a way of tuning that in?
No.
No. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's how hard marketing is.
It's over.
It is. But I think what is important, because what Mario says is right. You feel overwhelmed quickly. It's really, you think you need to do everything, and you will hear, oh yeah, TikTok is now the thing, and you need to do this and this and this, and you get overwhelmed, and then you realize, oh my God, I spent most of my time with social media or marketing or whatever, and I don't have time to write. So I think a very important tip for people who are starting out is take 80% of your time you have for writing, and the rest, the 20%, for marketing. It is important, but if you don't have time to write a book, there is no point in marketing. And it's important to write as much as possible, so you get better and you have more books out and so on, and then the marketing, yeah, we all have to do it, unfortunately, unless you're rich, then you can hire someone who does it for you, right? I mean,
I think you touched on a very important
point, because I know that I have spent time where I've gone down a rabbit hole and spent way too much time trying to make something work in terms of marketing, and it's very hard to draw that line and just go, you know what, this isn't working, this is not worth the effort that's going into this, whatever it is. I know I did that for a long time with Amazon ads and getting all of the programs and software to make it work, and then trying to drill down into keywords and everything else. And I eventually reached the conclusion that it just wasn't for me. That wasn't going to work for me. I even tried to put some money into it and see what happens. And for me, it was a disaster. For other people, it works fantastically. And I think one of that great question of, has anyone got the answer? I don't think there is one. And I think that when we all acknowledge the fact that there isn't one, you might find something that works for you. It makes things a little easier. We can beat ourselves up a lot if we spend too much time looking at those sales and what's coming and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's really important to remember that we're doing it because we like writing, hopefully. And if we're missing that step, then maybe we need to look at things a bit differently.
And you did a great deal of analytics there, Ross. I remember you gave us all reports, and I mean, you put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, I won't do that again, to be perfectly honest. It was a huge amount of time. And I'll talk about some of the things that came out of that in a little bit when because I'm sure Chris has got a plan to prompt me to do that. No, okay.
No.
Well, I'll just talk about that at some point. But that's one of the things we can spend a lot of time looking at this stuff, and I think it's really important that you don't invest too much in spending time on a path that isn't working for you, because you can just keep telling yourself, oh, I must be doing it wrong, I must be doing it wrong, I must be doing it wrong, but you try something else and it works. Like Mario mentioned TikTok, that's worked brilliantly for some people. I can't do TikTok.
Yeah.
You know,
Neither can I.
Neither can I.
I
Can
did.
I add?
Now I have 3 accounts, and I've got one account that was supposed to put an advert on me, and I don't know how to get in it anymore, and it's got 20 quid of my money in there. And they just keep sending me emails saying, we're going to shut down this account. Well, okay, great. I clearly can't do TikTok. I realized I'm not a child anymore, and I can't function with this stuff. Amazon ads didn't work very well for me either, and it's just finding something that works. So take it one step at a time. Don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work. I mean, we've all been doing this a while. Hopefully we'll find something that is working well for us and stick to that. But it's really important, as Anna said, don't go down rabbit holes, because I found a good few months of this year that I really suffered from focusing way too much on my marketing, when really it was wasted time, and I regret it a lot now. But hopefully everyone's found something that works a little bit for them.
If I could add to that just briefly, I think a big part of this is knowing where your genre lies and where the eyeballs for that genre are. And sometimes that takes some very frustrating trial and error. I am pretty sure my readers aren't on TikTok. I could be wrong, but I am pretty sure they aren't. And further to the Amazon ads attempt, I have had almost zero success on Amazon ads as well, and on Facebook, which is where I think my readers are probably more than anywhere else. But that has worked famously. Facebook advertising has worked famously for a couple of people I know. One of my friends is this close to quitting her job because it's going so well. So... but it's a combination of finding a genre that really was underpopulated, hitting it at the right time, knowing exactly what she was doing. But I think it's really reliant on genre as well as, platform and the amount of money you throw into it. Does anyone agree with that?
Absolutely. So I think what I would like to talk about a little bit is, in general, that there are so many of those self-help gurus out there who sell us their books, and we buy those books because the book says, buy my book and I teach you how to become a best-selling author, right? So that's the kind of books we all have read, and it's a couple of names we all know. And I made the experience over the last 2 years that I have been self-publishing, that most of the information there is either completely outdated or right out wrong. And I think that this is a huge problem many indie authors face, because we don't know what we're doing when we start out. And so we think, okay, those guys are obviously famous and successful, so they know what they're doing. And truth is no, because all of those people started out 10-15 years ago, when it was like the gold rush in self-publishing. It was completely different, and now you can't compare it. Plus, they sell us the cookie cutter concept, like do this and this and this and this, and it will be awesome. You will sell truckloads of books, right? It's so easy. And what they don't tell you is that what Joe just said, it depends on the genre so much. So much. I mean, if you there are genres where it is relatively easy to sell books, and others where it's almost impossible to sell books, and it's not your fault as the author, not at all. But if you read all those books and read the blogs and hear all those people talking, you think, hey, it works for them, why is it not working for me? And the truth is, it can't work for you because of the genre you're working in, and you maybe need a completely different approach for that than the cookie cutter stuff they are selling. So I think that's a very dangerous thing, where you can run into the trap all those self-help stuff. And I'm sure all of us have been there at one point or another. And now the latest thing is TikTok, right? So every author needs to have a TikTok, and that's bullshit. I mean, why? That's, yeah,
I
it will
love
eat your time, but that's about it, right? Or and
Well, and I think something I don't know we had mentioned earlier is that you just have to keep writing, and the more books you get out, the more your name gets out there, right? And you begin to build a following. I think that's more effective than many of these other venues where you have to purchase ads, right? You've got a name for yourself. Both Anna and Joe, you've got a series of books, and you have a following, and that really, really helps.
So
I mean,
Peter?
if we ignore the creative aspect and are spending so much time on marketing and not writing, then it's to our detriment.
Yes.
We have to keep writing.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
I love Joe's example of keeping your reader in mind, or your target audience, knowing your target audience, having to know where their eyeballs are. Fantastic. But there's two big points there. Is knowing your target audience is obviously a key point that you mentioned, Anna, and the fact that not everyone's techniques will work for everyone else as well. So as Ross said rightly, it's finding your feet in kind of the most efficient way possible without crazy budgets and without kind of putting yourself in a position where you're no longer thinking about your creativeness. So it's finding that balance across the board. And just before we move
Good
on,
summary.
guys, I want to do the first book giveaway, as there are a couple to give away. So what I'll do is play this video very quickly that tells you the hashtag across the bottom that you need to put in the chat. And it's split up on the video, but you need to do it hashtag one word as it's written there. And then you'll be entered into the competition. But don't say go until I say go. So check out the word and then I'll say go. Okay, so hashtag I'm an indie. If you can put that in chat right now, you'll be entered into the competition and I'll buy you whoever wins the ebook on Amazon today. And there will be 4 more of those coming up as well. So okay. Who's playing the video? Because I can hear myself. No,
I'm not playing anything.
okay, cool. Right. Okay, there you go.
Not me.
I'm an indie. That's what we're looking for. Yeah. So moving on to another point. Then we've talked about. In fact, let's go back to that because Anna mentioned earlier. It's almost
I would like
creating.
to add something, if I may.
Yeah.
So I actually would like to drop a bomb, which might be a very, very unpopular opinion, but I think it needs to be said, and that's something almost no one says, and the truth is that the whole indie publishing business is very much pay to play, and so many of us beat ourselves up because we can't reach the goals we would like to reach, even though we spend hours and hours on social media and blog and vlog and do whatever. But the truth is that you most likely will have to spend money on ads if you want to have success as an indie author. You probably, it's very, very unlikely to make it if you're not willing to spend money, and I'm talking about a lot of money. So this is a very sad truth, but I think people should know about that it's almost impossible to reach over a certain point if you're not willing or able to spend money on it. And it's really, really sad. And I'm sorry to drop that bomb, but it's just the truth.
But it's always been true in publishing. I think that if we expect for it to be different for us because we're indies, or despite being indies, we are indeed deluding ourselves. I hate to agree with you, but I do.
It took me a while to figure that out. Actually, I didn't want to believe it, but it's just how it is.
It's unfortunate, but true. Yeah, I agree.
But it's also very clear. A lot of the independent publishers ask the authors to do collaborative marketing It's one of the terms that they use, and so you end up spending money to make them money, but you're hoping that at least that'll get your name out there. I don't know that we're going to make millions of dollars for a bit, but we all will here on this screen. I'm confident.
I don't even want to make $1 million.
Come on.
Well, I'll have yours, Joe. It's
Well,
fine.
I mean, I'd be delighted, but like a couple, 3 steady grand a month. Yeah. I mean, that definitely, I mean, I think that'd be amazing to supplement, the rest of what I'm doing. And then I can, if it was steady, you could write more and you wouldn't have to be, chewing your liver out on social media all the time. So I would just like to have steady sales that look like something income-like. I don't know about you guys, but that would work for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is really difficult to even reach that point. And it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money you have to invest. That's like...
Yeah, Ian in the chat says exactly the same. The money's always been a roadblock, simply not able to afford to spend much on advertising. So if you're in that position, which I can completely relate to, does anyone have any sort of advice where they can advertise with a low budget, or in fact without spending at all? Is there a technique to do that?
I don't know about without spending at all, but the last 3 months I was trying Facebook adverts, and I put on only €2 a day to see what would happen. And I did a very niche marketing to just find very specific groups. So you guys all know that I write something which I haven't talked about genres, makes me kind of go, because it's a very strange genre. But by really, really hammering down to a very, very small market in general terms of Facebook, which is obviously ridiculous scale, it's paid for itself. And it's the first time I've ever found anything that's paid for itself. I'm not making any money because I'm not spending very much money either. But I looked at the last couple of months of that, and I'd spent, I think, work €2 a day, so €60 in a month, and I'd made enough sales to be able to double that in the next month. So it was just going straight into it. It's not big money, and it's not like that's ever going to result in me earning something, but the sales were much more consistent, and it was a relatively small outlay. Whereas I found when I tried something like that on Amazon, it was just like, yeah, we'll have your money, thanks, see you later. So I think that you can experiment with very small amounts of money, but trying to get it out there on a larger scale without any outlay at all, I know I found that very difficult. The only vague success I've had of that was via Twitter, and it was very small, to the point where it was, a sale in a week was time to celebrate, so it's really interesting. It's really difficult, but I would say that if you do want to try anything that does cost money, make sure you can do it on a really low scale and test things, because it is quite scary. I have heard some horror stories of people going, right, I followed all the advice, I put in $2,000 and it's taken all my money and I've sold no books. I'm like, why?
Don't do that. No.
Fortunately, I'm not in a position where I could do that, but it's scary what people can do.
So there is Ash Knight, who many of you know, has had a lot of success on Facebook by joining groups that are specific to her genre and advertising there and getting a following there. And she hasn't put out any money in that regard. So and this really goes back to what Joe said earlier, is finding where your audience is. And so these reading groups, and I don't think they're on Twitter, but these reading groups on Facebook seem to be working for niche genres. So that might be something where you don't have to spend a lot of money. But going back to what Ross just said, I don't think it's going to make you loads of money, but it may continue to get your books out there and read. And I think that's what we hope, right? I'm curious about Halo. You have a very specific genre. What have you
Bloodshed.
Bloodshed, right? What have you done to kind of, because you aren't advertising as much on Twitter. What have you done lately? I'm curious.
I lately have done nothing, but before, kind of the rule I gave for myself, because I didn't have any money to kind of invest in advertising, is anything I made from my books I could put back into advertising. So I tried things like Free Booksy, Bargain Booksy, Book Barbarian. And what I found for me, since I have a series, if I sent the first one to free, I would end up making sales in the later ones that would end up kind of like, if it didn't pay back for the promotion in the beginning, it would pay back later. But I mean, honestly, it's hard because I'm so niche. Like I talked to Ash, and I think romance is great because romance is such a community, and they really have all these groups on Facebook that are like, if you write, like a lot of the romances now are actually like self-published in indie, and you wouldn't even know because they have like thousands and thousands of views because there are just those avenues. For me, I think the best thing I did is, like I said, for me, free is good because I think it's like, take a chance on me because it's so weird. But also reaching out to book reviewers and kind of cold emailing a bunch. And I mean, like I've probably emailed 300 and gotten word back from 10. So not, it's a process, but those 10 have been great because they've been like, okay, we reviewed book 1, we want book 2. So it's kind of trying to find that. Like for me, a lot of the horror, heavy metal like people tend to like my books, but I had to go through, like I was trying to go for sci-fi and fantasy, and there's a lot of more, I think, YA focus, what like Joe and Ross and Anna were saying about, you have to find, like TikTok is very kind of YA fantasy at the moment. Maybe as that audience grows, it'll change, but I think it's finding where your audience is, which for mine is in like death metal. There's romance in it. I mean, I don't know if you can really.
There's definitely something in it. Okay, what we're going to do. Sorry, guys. Before we move on, let's give the first book away because buy the first book anyway. Because there's going to be a few more thrown in, and we've done 28 minutes already, so I need to get this in there. Yes, I know.
It's flying by.
I know. So I'm going to share this screen, and we're going to see who wins out of the first book sale, book buy thing. 6 entries is all, so we're going to stick with that for now. There'll be another one coming up very shortly. So here you go. Who's this going to land on? Some familiar names in there. Linda, well done to you. Okay, please email me details after or get in touch on Twitter and we will sort that out today. Well done. Okay, sorry, you may resume.
So I agree. I agree that probably Facebook is the #1 platform for advertising, for free advertising if you synergize groups, but also for paid advertising. So what Ross says, I think, so I made the same experience. I get sales from Facebook every day, and it's not so expensive. But what I have to say is I spent a lot of money to get there because until I had my ads, which would really work, it was trial and error, and it was really horrible. But there are worse things. So for me, the worst is BookBub. I spent hundreds of dollars on BookBub for basically nothing. I have good experiences with AMS, and I have good experiences with Facebook, but I spent really a lot of money, and this is something I can only recommend to people who are on a budget, which I am too. I obviously I'm not rich, but if you're on a budget, I think you should try to get advice from people who are more experienced and who made those experiences and who write in your genre, and ask them what they are doing, what is working for them and what is not. Don't take the cookie cutter. Ask the people who are doing exactly what you are, and it will make it easier for you, and you will save money. Otherwise, you will try so many things, and the money will fly away. It will burn, and you burn it out of the window. And so really try to rather ask other authors who are a bit farther than you, than rely on the self-help books and all those gurus with their shows and everything, because you won't have success following them.
Let me jump in. Oh, sorry, Halo, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce what Anna just said. I think one of the best ways is to talk with other authors, and actually this writing show and the writing community that we have established on Twitter has done that for a lot of us, and so it's really communicating with other authors. It may not sell our books, but it's definitely giving us support within the community, people who are reviewing, but also helping us with ideas and support, and just this show in particular, Chris, since its inception, has brought together writers of all genres and many indie writers. And so I think this is what launches us, and gets us known. And then we have to do all the rest of the work that each of us has been talking about,
Such a good point, Mario. That's where Twitter shines. It's where we can easily and rapidly connect and talk and share. And it's been huge for me. I don't feel like I'm floating out here in outer space anymore. It was very hard at first.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be where I am without the writing community on Twitter. It was probably one of the most important days in my life when I discovered this community. Otherwise, I definitely would be never able to do what I'm doing now. So this is huge. We have really a treasure there.
Yep.
I completely agree, Mario. Thank you for your words as well. But and a perfect example is if I hadn't discovered that community through my writing, we wouldn't be sat here right now. So that just goes to show the power of what it can create and where it can lead to. So you're exactly right. And what touches on that is your author brand, building a website, email list, and social media strategy. A good word to say. How many of you can relate to this? Do you have author websites, mailing lists, a blog, perhaps? How do you represent yourself as an author, but taking away the fact of selling books?
Halo, I interrupted you before. You should go.
Oh, no, sorry. It's not fully related to this, but just quickly, a neurotic thing I did, and kind of related to brand, is I think when I was kind of trying to see where my weird book babies fit in the grand scheme of things, I tried to find comp titles. And so, like I said, neurotic, but I went on to Amazon and Goodreads for those comp titles. So like one of mine was Red Rising, and I found the reviewers who had reviewed it well and really liked it. And a lot of the times, if you click on the reviewer name on Amazon or Goodreads, they might, not all the time, so like I said, neurotic, because a lot of these didn't work, but sometimes they do have a blog that then you can go to the blog and submit a book review request. And I found that was a really good way of kind of gaining legitimacy. And then I think also like basing your website off of that. So like, a lot of the stuff that I did for my brand, I was like, okay, it's hard because I don't have like direct comps, but I know that I'm like, if you like this messed up shit, you'll probably like my messed up shit, and then like building a brand based off of that. So I think if you're struggling and you don't have money and you're kind of trying to get that first bit, it takes a lot of time and it's very annoying and you won't get a lot of responses back, but you will get a few. And those are very legitimate people who have a following already. So you're kind of piggybacking off of theirs, who are all like, oh, we like dark messed up shit too. So then you get some sales based off of that.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
My neuroticism helps.
I love it.
Absolutely. That's do what Halo said. Do it.
Scroll through Amazon for hours.
Super great.
Amazon, Goodreads, do exactly what Halo just said. If you're starting out and you don't have much money, do exactly this. That's a great thing. Yeah, I did that too.
Go through 1,000 reviews.
It's very consuming.
That's working hard to achieve what you want. And Linda's asked a question relating to that, and she says, "What are your thoughts, as in paying for reviews? Does it diminish the impact of the review? What are your thoughts about that?"
So I have a very clear opinion about those services. Don't use them ever, because first of all, many of them are scammers. So they take your money and you won't get what they promised you to give. Sometimes they will give you really horrible reviews. And what is worse is that actually that kind of services go against the Amazon rules. And you don't want to wake the dragon. If the dragon wakes, then you will be eaten. Don't do any kind of such stuff ever. Do what Halo says. That's a very
Stalk
good
people.
way to
Yeah.
find reviewers and but don't take the paid services. Really don't.
Yeah, because a lot of those services, you know, they're putting your books out to people who don't necessarily like your genre, and that's where you sometimes get these bad reviews.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and so it's better for somebody to discover your book organically or through you going to groups, etc., like Halo and Anna mentioned. But if you throw your book out to just anybody, I mean, let's face it, we don't all like the same type of book, you know. So you can't
Also,
rely.
another thing, it's not so bad on Twitter, but it's really bad on Instagram. People will message you, will send you DMs. Hey,
Constantly.
I have a following of, I don't know, 50,000 people. I will review your book for whatever, $50. Don't ever do that, because the followings those people have are bots. There are also such people on Twitter who have a following of 20,000, 50,000 people, and most of them are bots. And they want you, you think, oh my god, they have such a huge following, if I pay them and they will tweet about it and make write a review, it will be great. No, it won't. I mean, it's really screaming into the void and throwing your money out of the window. So those people who DM you and tell you, hey, I won't do something for you, keep away from them, and keep away from everything on Fiverr.
Okay. Gotcha.
Also, so going off of that, because I agree that like paying for reviews definitely is just you're not gonna be targeting your marketing toward the people that you want. I did find, however, now if you have money to burn, or you know, I don't know, whatever, you're able to spend some money. It's usually like a few $100s. A lot of the big Bookstagram and BookTube channels do offer a service where you can sponsor a post or sponsor a video. And if you know, hey, this BookTuber or Bookstagram or whatever is usually recommending books that are like my comp titles, which is why those comp titles are important, and you decide that I don't need this $600 today, then that is a good way to kind of get your book out there. And I think you're going to kind of spend more money up front with that than get it back. But, you know, I think to be a bit positive too, I think we're reaching more people than we realize, because I'll have people out of the blue be like, oh yeah, I read your book, and I'd like never interacted with them before. I'm like, oh, you're not one of the ones I stalked and harassed, so that's nice to know.
But that goes to Chris's initial question that I don't think any of us have answered, is like building your brand, right? You know,
Yeah.
websites and we certainly, each of us on here has a brand, right? You know, like our persona and our. Oh, you do, Ross. You absolutely have a brand. But you know, like people know us and follow us because they like us. They either think it's clever, or they're really into cyber, or you know, right? They really do like what we're putting out there. And I think having our personalities sell our books is just as important as the you know, book titles and descriptions themselves. You know, I don't know. Certainly, Joe, your books, you have a genre, and people sell you. They don't sell you. They follow you because of your style and who you are, etc. Right?
I'm not so sure about that. I'm not sure how clear my genre is. I'm not sure how clear my brand is. It's been a real learning experience. I'm trying to get a little lighter and goofier on Twitter, to, you know, kind of, because I'm really serious about what I write. It's important. Everyone has to read my book.
So am I. I'm so very serious on Twitter. So I'm like,
yeah, right, Mario. Yeah, I used to be, though, like just too intense. Got to lighten it up. I was going to say something incredibly important about what you just said, but I can't remember what it was. I want to add a really quick thing about traditional media. I know this is kind of barging in on the brand conversation a bit. I don't know how many people consider like actually doing the standard traditional media outreach. I don't think it works very well for independent writers in big cities. So it depends where you live. But you know, I think it's still an important tool in the kit. And even if you don't get a story out of the first time, if you continue to harass your local media, you might get one the second time. Oh, I remember that name. Who's that? Maybe I should check into this. The third time, I think it's worth continuing to press traditional media. In my case, I've got a slightly different situation going on here because I've been a journalist in my city for a long time. And, you know, the original thing was, oh, journalist turns fiction writer, and we've seen her name in the paper. So yeah, okay, that worked for me. But everybody has a shtick, right? Everybody's got something to say, and I think it's worth trying it at the very least, because you don't pay for traditional media coverage. That is earned coverage. It is free, and it is going to get you like more publicity and more visibility than just about anything else. So I just want to say that it's worth trying, I think, and we have to keep trying, even if it didn't work the first time.
I agree with that. And I also do agree that coming from New York, it's nearly impossible
for you. I know.
However, in Connecticut, right over the border, I did get a review, right? So, I mean,
awesome.
small markets really help with that, you know.
Yeah, form relationships if you can as well, you know, with your local reporters and so on. So in my case, I've been super lucky because it's not like it's a huge amount, but my paperback sales on the ground in my province, which is like a state or a county, wherever you are, that's what's allowed me to keep going with this, really, because that's where I make the money is locally.
I was going to mention that because if you sell through Amazon, for example, you don't make a hell of a lot of money back on your sales. But if you were to buy yourself a load of author copies and sell them in, say, a coffee shop locally, that was much more profitable, right?
Absolutely. Very much.
You won't sell so many copies. I mean, that's of course, the profit from one copy will be higher if you just go to your local coffee shop, but you can't sell as many as you sell online. So,
absolutely not.
But also that also is a genre thing. I think it's there are genres where you sell a lot of paperbacks or even hardcovers, and there are genres that are almost completely Kindle or even KU. So that again is not every genre is the same, and you need to figure out what is the best for you. And I'm sure there are genres where it's really worth it to put stuck your books into your local coffee shops and other places, and this is where you will sell them better than on Amazon. But for my genre, it would be a disaster, right? I mean, no one would buy my books in a coffee shop.
Depends on the coffee shop.
Yeah. Maybe.
And then you become a local celebrity as well, you know, in your community. Right.
Well, that's what you're reaching for, right? If you have some kind of status in your community, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters that much what your genre is. They're going to want to check you out.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because word of mouth is very valuable, and just having, say, 30 people in your local town know who you are. Every time they speak about someone about a book, they'll be saying, "Oh, do you know this person?" And that's way more powerful than sending a tweet out, I think, now and then.
Yeah.
There are literally 30 people in my town.
And they all know Ross.
And they're all French. I mean, you live in France, so they don't even understand you.
It is something that
none of us understand him.
Pretty good though. I do think that if you've got that on your doorstep, then do try and find a way to use it, because it's something that I wish I had more access to, which I don't know, completely my own choosing. So I'll shut up now.
I'm just going to run the second competition here. Unfortunately, I entered it as the WCCS twice, so ignore that. But let's see who's won the second competition here. Just 5 entries, 2 of which are me. Off we go. Let's hope for a not WCCS winner. Right, let's do that again. This is fantastic. Live TV.
You won.
I won. How many entered with that? That's 3, right? Hey, okay. I'll keep doing this. If we get a triple, I'll buy the 3 other people that entered, and there you go. So I'll buy all 3 of them. Ian, well done to you.
Oh.
Send us a message, and we will get that sorted out. 3rd time lucky.
Yay, Ian.
Yeah. In fact, Ian did ask a question. He says, thinking of running a little related competition on his Twitter, book related. Who thinks that's a good idea? So would you enter a competition on a social media platform from an indie author?
Like a giveaway?
I've seen this done quite a lot. Sorry, Halo, go on.
No,
Yeah.
that was all I was gonna say.
I don't understand what kind of competition. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess like Halo said, like a giveaway. Yeah, would you guys be up for that, or would you
I
consider
think
doing that yourself?
Sure.
Another truth bomb. I think that most of those competitions giveaways are maybe not for nothing, but will have only a very small resonance. So you can do them, and it's nice. And I got a couple of signed books myself from other authors, and I love them. But if you're considering running it, yes, it's nice, but probably it won't give you the success you are hoping for. Because if you do it on, let's say, in the writing community, a couple of authors will jump into the giveaway, and it will be a couple of people, and you will give them your book. But if you expect to, people from outside to join in, and maybe then they don't win but buy your books, I think that won't happen. I think most of us made similar experiences, and I don't know anyone who would say, oh my god, it was so good, I said so many books after having a giveaway or something like that. I don't know, maybe you had, but I don't know anyone, to be honest.
I tried about a year and a half ago to offer it wasn't my book, it was a competition to win a book trailer for your book, and all you had to do was name the character from my book, and nobody got it. That was pretty humiliating, because that was like an expensive book trailer, so that was pretty humiliating. So just be aware that you've got to get, as Anna says, you've got to hit the audience that you want to hit if you want to give a giveaway. If you're going to put it on Twitter, there's a very good chance that it will get as much coverage as any of your other tweets. So how much coverage are you really getting with those? And you can get everyone you know to retweet them. And there's a lot of people who are great at that. And you can ask people to retweet it. But even so, who is looking at that? For me, on Twitter, I wouldn't do one myself. I just think it would end up being a little bit disappointing at the end of it. Probably just cost me a book that may never get read by the person.
Yeah.
I think the only thing you can hope for is a review from the person who won it.
Yeah.
And that's just hoping, right?
Yeah, the best case
Also,
scenario.
I mean, if you're not a famous author, then people just don't want your book. Okay, so that's really a sad truth. If I go out there and say, "Hey, here's my
Anna
book,"
with the
who wants it?
positivity
People,
tonight, guys.
you would have crickets.
Crickets. No,
I
I think you're right, because let's be honest, it'll take a lot of time and effort for you to market that, say, tweet, for example, and promote that competition. In reality, you might only give away that one book. You might be lucky to get one review. Otherwise, all that time and effort was for someone to receive that book, which you paid to send out, and then was probably sat on the shelf somewhere.
I have
Yeah, that's why I don't enter that kind of competitions anymore from authors I know, because I won a couple of books, and I was thinking, I felt bad, I was thinking, okay, yeah, of course they get their review from me, but maybe if someone other had won the book, it would have been better for them, so that's why I don't participate in that anymore.
Go on, Halo.
Sorry, I have to sketchily slide out, but right before I go, I just saw something. I think a lot of it's about finding readers, not writers, and kind of going outside the echo chamber. And one thing I did find out is if you use like alumni services, if you've gone to college or high school or the equivalent, vocational school or whatever, or if you have friends that you can harass to get into their
Brilliant.
alumni. Or like I have some friends who are like, I mean, obviously not for my book, but are elementary school teachers that I've given like friends books. I haven't sent the recycle to an elementary school, but you know, that's been a good way to kind of get it out in the world in a more organic way. Because I mean, a lot of like my favorite series I've come to know and love were just they were around. And I think it's just making your book around. And that's a free way. So if you want to like harass everyone you know, or if someone went to like a really posh school and you can like stalk them and get them to reach out to their alumni services, they're usually really good about, or like student unions or student centers, you know, stuff like that. For at least for me, it's more of a college adult demographic if you're going that way. Sorry, I do have to go in a really sketchy way, but you're all really lovely.
Boy, hey, Lau, thank you for that brilliant tip.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the best tip here,
So-
really.
So I want to just reinforce what she said. I am actually doing a virtual book launch at my college bookstore from my alma mater. You know, so that's going to happen in February when the next book comes out. So and that just happened because I contacted the alumni office. You know, and they're always contacting everybody to donate money. I don't know, every university in America is, at least, you know, and so contacting them and say, hey, you know, I published a book, would love to do it, to do something at the university bookstore. And so I do think that using those resources, that's a lot like what Joe was talking about with regard to local, you know, your local venues.
Local venues, you know, really do help. And being, here's the other thing. If somebody prints something about you in a local paper, or let's say there's an affiliate station for a wider group of stations in a network, you never know where that's going to get picked up either, because of wire services and that type of thing. You never know, you know. I really, it's certainly worth a shot.
Right.
And it doesn't cost you anything. So free is nice, like free.
And it's also good for these universities when they say, oh, our alum published a book, you know, and so they like that too. So I know that at least a couple of my titles are at the university bookstore.
They like to demonstrate success for their alumni. Yeah.
But I would like to say something good about Twitter, because we've been talking about Twitter. Oh, Twitter is an echo chamber, and you only meet other authors there. You can't sell books. I think that's not true. Also, I think that Facebook, unless you write really for a very young audience, then it's probably TikTok. But otherwise, for almost every audience, Facebook is probably the most important platform to find your readers. But I have to say that a lot of my personal success comes from Twitter, and that's not only because of the writing community, which have been awesome, but because of and I've been told that very often I'm doing a very aggressive marketing on Twitter. And I was for a long time I was thinking that's worthless, but it turned out that not, because I have been contacted by people for interviews and or podcasts or whatever, and I asked them, how did you find me? Well, I found you on Twitter, and I found my narrator like that. My narrator is found me on Twitter, and sometimes people contact me. They read my books and they liked them, and they found them on Twitter. So I think it is a very good platform to make connections, but you also can sell books and can create your author brand and your name there. So advertising on Twitter is definitely something I wouldn't put off the table and say it's worthless and useless.
So Anna, it's interesting because I'm just reading Lali's post here. Her posts are not getting as much exposure, and I have an engagement, and that's happened to me as my following numbers have gone up. I found the engagement has gone down.
Yeah.
And it is also another interesting thing that a lot of publishers are you know, they'll tell us directly, don't be throwing your book out there all the time because people don't like it. But when I backed off, and this is to reinforce your point, when I backed off, because I don't advertise as much on Twitter, my sales went down. So I think you're right, Anna.
I mean, it's like I see that I also use my trailers a lot. I have to say that my trailers probably sell me a lot of books every day, and that's because I have many of them and always vary them and yeah, they sell me books definitely. But even if not, I think the principle is like, I think it's like this: you have to see something 7 times until you buy it, or is it 10 times? That kind of sales thing, and I think it's true. And it's the same principle as on TV. You know, you will see a commercial and you will hate it. Then you see it the second time, you hate it more. Then you see it the third time, and suddenly you decide, maybe it's not so bad. And after the 10 times, next time you're in the supermarket, you will buy this product. So that's how marketing and advertising always has worked and still works. And we can do that on social media. After a while, people have seen your book so many times that they will say, well, maybe it's good. And then maybe they give it a try, because you have a sale or whatever, you have a 99-cent sale, and then they will say, okay, well, why not? I've seen it so often.
Halo's back.
Did you see
Clocked out already.
Linda's post is very, very funny.
Yeah, maybe I should stand on the roadside and chuck books at every random passerby.
Thank you, Linda.
I mean, that's a great way of getting your book out there.
You can buy my book or else, right? Like a robbery, but with selling your book.
So I'm conscious of the time, and Ross, I know you mentioned some stats that you dug up, which were fantastic before. If you've got something you can share about that, would be great before the final tips from us all.
Really, really quickly then, for the last 2 years, I ran a survey around about Indie April, which is supposed to be the time where we sell most of our books. That's not true. That's the first bit of information for you. That Indie April's a really nice idea, and it's a really good thing in the writing community. But in reality, it doesn't seem to make a huge difference to most people. A lot of people find that when they're having a book launch, it's a good time to do it. That's what came out of that little. So if you're launching a book and you're big in terms of making the point that you're an indie author and things like that, it can be good then. A couple of depressing but realistic things that came out of it, I suppose, and what most people seemed interested in is that most people are selling sod all books, and when I say that, I mean really like the majority of people who responded to the survey, and I think it was 100 the first year, 150 the second year, more than that, but it was all from the writing community, and most people who had one book sold 1 to 2 copies in a month. And those are people who weren't doing any paid marketing and were only using Twitter. So be a little bit more realistic. Stop being so hard on yourself. Is the thing that I was trying to take out of this and give to people, is that it is much harder than people may make it appear. I know that it probably is that all of us are selling hundreds, thousands of books, but the reality of it is that the numbers don't look like that. Okay, but we're not going to tell you the truth. The survey also brought a few things. Paid advertising doesn't really make that much of a difference for a lot of people, but there's a big difference between people who paid this much and people who paid loads and loads more, but not a big difference in their numbers of sales. That was quite interesting. And a really, really interesting thing that came out of it was that more books don't necessarily always sell you more books, which is really badly phrased, but having written more books doesn't necessarily sell you more books. But series books are a massive winner. So if you're writing in series, then they were a massive winner.
Yay!
And there's lots more about that. There's a couple of posts on my website, which the reason I laughed when you mentioned websites before, my website is down right now, and I don't know why. But if anyone wants to, I'll send you some more information about it, Chris, because there's loads to talk about and loads to unpick, and it can be really boring, but some people find it interesting. But the big takeaway was, do not beat yourself up if you're not selling any books. That's pretty much everybody.
Your survey was brilliant, Ross. Like, it was just so helpful. And I think it helped everybody orient themselves in the universe and made us all feel normal, and I think all of us owe you a huge debt for that. That was amazing.
Honestly, it was purely selfish and to make myself feel better. So there's
It was not.
You know what? It was the realism that we all needed because a
Yep.
lot of us were living in that world thinking that we were lacking or we were not doing the right things. But then you made it very clear to everybody that we were all in the same boat. And it's a very difficult learning process. And as much as we are a community, we still tackle this on a very self-centered, not self-centered basis, but a very alone basis. And what this is trying to do is trying to let everybody know we can try and do it together, but it's a very difficult thing nonetheless.
I also think I said it earlier. The best thing that can happen to you is when you find someone who is more experienced than you, who's willing to share insights. I think that kind of, finding a mentor, someone who writes in your genre, and maybe it's not, once people get really successful, most of them won't be interested and will go away and back away or become assholes. I mean, that's just the way how it is. But if you find someone who is like maybe not high up yet, but who's doing well, and try to convince them to be your mentor, and you will rise on this person's level much faster than if you just buy the books by the gurus and think if you follow that advice you will make it. So yeah, find someone to help you.
All those people who write in the post-mortal noir comedy fiction genre are going to be coming after me now, and I wish you hadn't said that. Hundreds of thousands.
They're
Thank
coming.
Thank you, Anna, for that tip there. Ross, have you got a tip you can sign off with?
I think be a little bit realistic, be a little bit kinder to yourself. Those are two really big tips, and do ask people. We all play our cards quite close to our chest, but if you DM people, do try to set up little groups where you can talk to other people in similar positions to you and just ask the questions that everyone's afraid of asking, because that's the truth of it. Don't be afraid to say, look, guys, has anybody actually sold any books in the last few days?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we all need to know that it's, nope, we're having a crap month. Great. I feel much better about myself. Not so good for you guys, but I feel much better about myself. And I think that we need to be a little bit more honest and talk to people. And by all means, do it in private messages, do it in DMs, stuff like that, so it's not out there for the world to see if you don't want it to be. But find people who will be honest with you about it, because I think that that's the most helpful thing to me. Far from alone, and I promise. But the most helpful thing for me was talking to other people who were in the same boat and being a little bit more honest about what was going on.
Thank you, Ross.
But
Mario,
please don't be an opportunist. So that's the other thing. There are people out there who will, that we know them all from Twitter, the ones who will follow you and you follow back, and then they unfollow because they want to seem important. Don't be that person, and don't try to take advantage of someone who's trying to help. I had that myself. I made the experience a couple of times that I was helpful to people, and they turned out to be dicks. So don't be like that. Take and give back.
It's always good advice, isn't it?
It's
the best
always
advice
good
in the world.
advice. Yes, I would echo that advice. But I'd say the reason why we all got into this is because we enjoy writing, and let's never lose track of that. And it is like a performance, right? You're going to go to a ton of auditions and get rejected until you're not, right? So once we publish our books, we need to keep writing our other stories. Let that creative part of us come out, be nice to it, celebrate it. If all of our energy goes to marketing and disappointment from that marketing, then what happens is that we begin to doubt ourselves, doubt our talent, doubt our creative energies, and doubt our muse. And really, that's not what we got into this for. I mean, like Joe said earlier, be nice to make a living from this, but short of that, being creative, enjoying our creative process. We like to tell stories. Everyone here loves to tell stories. Don't stop. That's my advice.
That's beautiful, Mario.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mario. Joe, do you have a tip that we can have before we go?
I think, you know, I'm going to add to Mario's uplifting message by saying, I think a lot of us think that we're just going to burst on the scene and everything is going to be rosy from the beginning. This is a long haul, just like every other business for most people, not everyone. And you have to sort of gut it out. Like I watch people like Claudia Alteen, who is building up this enormous groundswell of support even before she's published her first book. If you can do that kind of thing and you have time, that's probably a better way to go than writing this book and going, okay, everyone's going to buy it. I'm going to be a bestseller because I'm amazing. Because no matter how amazing you are, it does not work that way. You have to be found first. We haven't talked very much about promos. And I do want to do it. I'm going to make this fast as I can. You know, the last 2 times I've done a promo, I have done the Bargain Booksy / Free Booksy series promotion. This has worked for me better than anything else. And in the future, I'm going to stack promos behind it because it got my algorithm up for a week and I'm still getting sales and I'm still getting page reads a week later. So I had 835 free downloads of Adam's Witness, my first book. I sold 250-ish books and had 2,800 page reads within 4 days. And that's carrying me through. And at this point, it has paid for it. And so this is the crucial thing, right? We don't want to be throwing 200, 300 bucks at people until the cows come home. But that is actually starting to work for me. And so we have to, I think, considering stacking promos, as unfortunately the gurus say, it does work. It does work.
I need to disagree with that a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because so I used to do that too, and I completely agree with you. It will trigger the algorithm. You will sell more books for a couple of weeks, and it's great.
Or longer, yeah.
Yeah, or longer, and your KU will go up. So this is great, and I also made the experience. But what has been happening with many authors I know for the last couple of months, this thing, I don't know, became somehow toxic. So a lot of authors experience that they make those big giveaways, give away thousands of books, and then they will get bad reviews. People will get these books for free and then give them, it's not necessarily 1-star reviews, but 3-star reviews. People read the book, people get the book even though they are not fans of the genre. They read it and they say, yeah, it was a good book, 3 stars. Because people out there, they don't know that 3 stars on Amazon means bad. They think 3 stars is good. So you will give away your books and you will get tons of 3-star reviews, and I know people who fell to a 4-star rating on Amazon because after such promotions where they were bombed with 3-star reviews. So be careful about that. It might backfire because you sell books, but you may end up with 4 stars in total, and no one wants that.
Good word of warning. That has never happened to me. In fact, I almost never get any reviews at all. But
I think it's great advice from both of you is testing the waters and see what works for you, and is also be cautious of what could happen and don't commit too much until you realize what the results could be. For me, my advice would be, I wanted to release my first book as something of an achievement, to feel that achievement. I did that, but I was so wrapped up in what would happen post-release that I forgot to kind of sit there and appreciate what I'd done. So my advice for you, if you're doing that, going through that journey, is to actually take your time and realize what you've achieved and breathe it in, enjoy it, and don't stress too much about the numbers. Enjoy the process and enjoy the rewards as well.
And to quote Terry, buy my book.
Terry to you.
Please.
Buy my book. Buy Terry's book.
And his, and hers, and his.
Anyone else got anything else before we shoot off?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. This was great.
I learned a bunch of stuff too.
And it's good to be together.
It is together. This will not be the last, guys. These will happen more regularly with a different focus, perhaps at different times. But if you have suggestions, the writing community chat show at gmail.com. Send us an idea for a discussion show. If you want to be on the show, send us an email as well. There's Google Forms I've got there if you want to apply for the show. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for you guys in the chat. Ian, worry not. If you want to me to buy your book from the competition, email the Writing Community Chat Show at gmail.com or drop me a message on Twitter. I will sort that out, and I'm sure someone can direct me towards you in the chat as well, or from the audience. So yeah, thank you all. Please look after yourselves. If you have learned some good value from this show, thank you. Hit the like. I will leave the description these social links for all of these guys so that you can follow them on Twitter if you want to do so. And again, buy their books, buy Terry's book. See you all soon, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hi, thanks everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
That was the end show bit. I don't know. Just goodbye. There you go.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.